Thank you, thank you. Thank you all for coming tonight. First, I have to give thanks to the EFGLA and the incredible event they've put on and the impact that they've made across this city, across greater LA. And I think that video painted me in too good a picture. I can't claim all of those successes, and I just looked at the medical record today and I saw that the reason little Bob came to UCLA was to see Christina Murata, who is a nurse practitioner and the leader of our ketogenic diet program. The first neurologist that he saw was Dr. Lekha Rao. So I was the prototype, the first Care+Cure fellow, but she was the second. So she was new and improved. The first person to lay eyes on his EEG and see those spasms for sure was Adam Numis, one of our recent Care+Cure fellows, one of UCLA's own. So I like to think that they loaded the bases and I just hit a single and we won the game. But we've shown you a happy ending. Unfortunately, when it comes to infantile spasms, there are some happy endings, but there are even more not so happy endings. And I think it's important that we take a step back and recognize some of the wins, but we have to talk about some of the recent losses and how we need to improve our game. And we glossed over this in the video, but when we first identified infantile spasms and laid it out for Bob's parents, we offered them some therapies that aren't so palatable. We offered a drug that can suppress the immune system, that can cause little infections to turn into big infections. We offered them a drug that has a 30% chance of working, but also carries a 30% chance of irreversible vision loss. This is a menu of therapies no parent ever wants to see. And for the many children for whom both of those therapies don't work, we are often searching for some sort of structural lesion in the brain, something abnormal that you can see, and it's something you can cut out and cure epilepsy. It sounds pretty drastic or dramatic, but it's often a game changer, a lifesaver. And when those things don't work, there aren't any options. And when it comes to infantile spasms, outcomes can be terrible if you don't have successful therapy. Things like mental retardation, lifelong epilepsy, kids who don't walk or talk, who don't go to regular school, who don't graduate from high school, who don't get married, who don't get a job. And those are the children we're fighting for. And there are two big ways that we can lead that fight. One is to improve access to pediatric neurologists and epileptologists, so kids don't wait many months like little Bob, so that prompt therapy can be standard and not the exception. The other big thing is that we need therapies that are safer and that work more, and that requires innovation and it requires people doing research. And I personally spend a lot of my time doing research, and that is only possible because I have a growing number of colleagues at UCLA who can shoulder a humongous epilepsy burden in the clinic and allow me to spend some time trying to develop new therapies and make sense of what we've done, identify our failures, and try to build new successes. So the purpose of this evening is to fund those endeavors, to make more pediatric neurologists and fund research. I think that's a big change that we'll see in the coming 10 years. But before I close, I want to make this maybe a little bit more personal. I wasn't sure I would want to talk about this here today because it's a public forum, but I think I'm among friends. So I have a 2-year-old boy who is my life now. He's incredible. He's a monster. He doesn't know how to sleep. But he's also had 3 seizures. So a little cruel turn of fate maybe. And 2 of them, they weren't subtle. They were long enough that I had to call 911, that he took an ambulance for 2 of them, was hospitalized at my hospital at UCLA. And his seizures happened with fever, and a lot of times we think that seizures with fever are okay. His were not garden variety though. They looked, the one I watched for 5 minutes, looked like it came from the left part of his brain. And 2 weeks ago, he had an EEG. It's a brainwave scan, and that EEG suggested that maybe his seizures are coming from the left side of his brain. And as coincidence has it, tomorrow morning I'm taking him to UCLA at 6 o'clock in the morning to get an MRI. And I am hoping that we will see that things are okay, that there isn't something bad over there. So for me, this is suddenly a personal battle, and I can only hope that I only fight epilepsy at work and not at home. So I also did a little math this morning, and I calculated that in the United States alone, if you consider children under the age of 5, there will be 140,000 new cases of epilepsy in the next 10 years. And about 2/3 of them will do pretty good. About half of them will be easy to control with medications. We'll have to fight pretty hard to get up to 2/3 seizure-free. But the remaining 1/3 will continue to have seizures despite all of the medications at our disposal, despite possible surgeries or implanted devices, special diets. And I can imagine my own son trying to face those odds, and those odds are not something I want to even think about. So I tell you what, we'll make a deal. I will dedicate my entire life to trying to protect those children. And tonight you'll do what you can to protect those 140,000 children. Now I see a lot of good-looking young people out here. Some of you are going to have kids. And I can only hope that none of those 140,000 are going to become one of your kids. I'm just hoping that my son isn't one of those 140,000 either. So thank you for being here tonight, and I know that we can join together and beat this. Thank you.